Well, well, John, I think we need another round of applause. I mean, your stand on agency, everyone in this room, we need to express our thanks to you for making, a more fair marketplace, for books and readers. So I know you haven't spoken out publicly, not too much about this. So we're talking about the whole damn story.
Right.
So why now? Why do you want to do this now? And tell us the story.
Okay.
And the whole damn thing.
So this is the one question that I'm actually prepared for per our agreement. So look, there are a few reasons. I have throughout my career, and particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, always tried to be sort of in the background and not be very public. I don't give interviews, generally speaking, and I don't offer many quotes in the press. I try to stay strictly in the background. That is my natural inclination, and thus this is a little nervous-making for me to be stepping forward. There's several reasons why I chose to do it now. I think first and foremost, booksellers, authors, agents are our partners in what we do. It is a fast-changing and complex business. We need to have a relationship where we can speak to our partners and that our partners can understand what it is that is going on. It strikes me many times for me, as we go through this, sort of this transition period, it is difficult for me to understand what's going on, and it's difficult for me to have the breadth of knowledge I need to make good decisions. So I sort of put myself in other people's shoes who aren't in the middle of it all day, every day, like I am, and I think, how would it feel to not know, to know even less about what was coming and what was going on? And to me, we sort of owe it to the community at large to discuss these things. So first and foremost, it's to make sure that we tell you at least our point of view and tell you our plans about what we're doing, and it's time that someone starts to come out and do that. So that's first. Second, I think in this rapid a changing environment, we're a communications industry and we don't communicate, and this pace of change makes it very important that people actually understand what's going on. And third of all, I have a great fear about what I think of as sort of the victim effect. Having been in the sort of hole of, the DOJ and lawyers all day, every day, it is hard not to sort of take that need to be silent and not to say anything and not to meet with anybody. It is hard to take that and move that aside. And I think it is dangerous for us as an industry if everybody in the industry lives under sort of a pall of, the Department of Justice or legal action is actually quite specific. We are not allowed to discuss price. We are not allowed to discuss business models. But, things like piracy, we're allowed to discuss those things. There's a lot of things that we are allowed to discuss. And this sort of feeling of, the DOJ is very aggressive, and they're good at intimidating. And we need not to be intimidated, right, as an industry. If you look at, booksellers over the years, this is an industry based on freedom of speech. Booksellers have stood up over and over again for generations to defend that. And we can't lose sight that is what we are at the core. So we can't be in a position where we sort of question ourselves on that. We have to be strong, and we cannot be intimidated, right? So this is sort of hopefully my way of saying that this is something I'd like to see as a more of in the industry. We need to talk. Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's a point of conversing, but also investing in one another, but feeling free that we can. Exactly. So talking about the whole damn story. Yeah. And I know you talk about that epiphany you had on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And how it started. So tell us how this all began, and up until Macmillan's settlement, and then we'll talk about your feelings for what the aftermath will be.
Okay. So first off, I have to say, if you see me struggling with my language a little bit, and you see me being a little tentative, I am going to be called to testify next week in court, so I have to be a little bit careful. So I may struggle to answer all your questions exactly as I should, but
we totally
but I'll do my best.
All
Look, the story is really quite simple. It starts with a world where as ebooks launched, one retailer had 90-some% market share and was pricing books at below cost, and that was an issue for all of us in the industry, right? If you look at what that does in its logical extreme, right? If they keep that market share for a long time, and the books do actually all go very quickly over to ebooks, the discourse in book form in America, at the end of the day, is going to the distribution of books is going to be controlled by one man running a publicly traded company, right? Relatively unacceptable for us as publishers, right? So there was a moment where I think it was common to everybody in this business that, here's an interesting moment in time. Apple commences to launch the iPad, comes to publishers and says, we'd like to launch the iPad. We have discussions with Apple at Macmillan that went on for some period of time, a couple of weeks. At the end of the day, we made a decision to go agency. I watched on TV on a screen as Mr. Jobs announced, 5 publishers are in, off to Seattle. And, I think the rest of that has been reasonably well documented. Off to Seattle and came back and the buy buttons were off. And,
right.
and then there was a fair amount of trying to work through getting to the end, which is, Amazon is our largest customer and a very important distribution channel. We wanted to have a competitive marketplace with an even playing field, and there was a lot of work to get there. And since it's been a lot of lawyers on a steady basis.
So, this whole decision, what lasting effect do you think this DOJ case against the publishers and Apple will have on our business? What do you think, because this could have put you out of business, if you had.
There's no way to tell, right? That's in the future, and I have a lot of hope for where we stand today for the business going forward. There's an awful lot of good signs as far as the movement to digital, the fact that people aren't moving. If you think when you got an iPod and you listened to your music on it, you thought, wow, that's great. And nobody I know went back and said, let me have a cassette tape because that was cool, right? And I think in the publishing world, what you see is people are moving back and forth between the formats. So there isn't this sort of, in the end, the consumer was always going to vote, right? The consumer was going to decide how we want to read. And what is dangerous is if you allow sort of artificial acceleration based on the desires of someone to further their own corporate goals. Artificial acceleration, dangerous. At this moment in time, it seems to be a relatively stable market. The independent booksellers are having a good go of it. I think the country was overstored. There were probably when Borders and Barnes & Noble and Independents, everybody was doing it, and the big boxes were all. There was a moment when we were overstored, and now it looks like it's probably sustainable. So I think at the end of the day, I am very hopeful that, in the future, we're going to have an even playing field. The agreement that we signed with the DOJ ends in December of, 2014. And
right.
At that point, it's, we'll keep working to make sure we have an even playing field all the time.
Okay. So can you say what will happen in that 2014? Will you move back to agency?
I can't comment on any business models going forward.
Okay. So, you know, we've been frustrated, you know, amongst independent booksellers. We've been so frustrated with the environment at the DOJ.
Yeah.
You know, having gone there and spoken with them a few times.